Okay, this is the syllabus discussion for CYS265, which is Network and Cloud Forensics. My name is Wayne Beach. I'm your instructor. There is a video that I call a VIO video that will be in the Start Here section of your Blackboard shell that you can watch. It has detailed information on me and courses I've taught in the past. But the short version is my full-time job is in Central IT at the University of Kentucky, and I have been teaching at BCTC since the spring 1999 semester. My email address is wayne.beach@kctcs.edu. That is the best way to get in touch with me. If for some reason you can't use email, you can give me a call on my work number at UK. Please do not use the Blackboard messaging system. There are no good way to track those messages. I can't search them. If I respond to them without thinking, they're going to bounce and won't actually return to you. So please use email. There are times that I am able to disable that from the course shell, and if that's possible this semester, it will be disabled. As far as division contact information, Dana Brown is our coordinator for this semester, and Lauren Campbell is our assistant dean. You probably won't need to get in touch with either of those people, but if you do, there is their contact information. Now, I'm not going to read the syllabus to you word by word, but I'm going to try to hit the high points and do that as quick as I can. What we have next is the official course description. This is what appears in the KCTCS course catalog, so you can read that to see what the official description for the course is. This is a 3-credit-hour course. And to be in the course, you need to have successfully completed CYS 130 and CYS 245. Upon completing this course, we have these learning outcomes, which are things that if you participate in the class and successfully complete it, these are things that you should be able to explain and or do that you learned about in the course. Why it matters, they started putting why it matters in the syllabus for the whole course, and then you'll see each course module or each week that we have will also have a why it matters that talks about the specific material we are covering for that week. But for the entire course, cyber attacks are becoming more advanced and more common, and we need people who can detect cyber attacks, mitigate cyber attacks, try to make sure cyber attacks don't happen the first time. If you do have an attack, how can you prevent it from happening again, etc. So we will be looking at examining that. The forensics part of the course is capturing evidence, looking over that evidence, trying to determine what happened, what was compromised, how it was compromised, etc. As far as course attendance and participation, this is an online class. So the way you show participation is by logging into Blackboard regularly, reading your email regularly, turning your assignments in by the due date, etc. So that's how you show participation. As far as accommodations, there is a Student Accessibility Services office. If you feel that some accommodation is needed in the classroom for you to be successful in the course, you discuss that with the SAS office. If they determine that an accommodation does need to be made, they will send me a formal letter that identifies the student and identifies what accommodations need to be made for that student. So again, you work that out with the SAS office, not individual instructors. As far as class materials, there's a general required technology and equipment that applies to all BCTC courses. Those are going to be more general things like you need to have an internet connection, you need to have at least an okay computer, you need to have Office, you need to be able to surf the web, you need to be able to log into Blackboard and do your coursework, things like that. Now, specific for this course, there are several things you need. So we'll be running software such as Wireshark and Cisco Packet Tracer and other tools. A lot of times there are not versions that work on Chromebooks. So here I've listed that you need a Windows, a Mac, or a Linux-based computer that is capable of running all the various software that we will be running over the course of a semester. You already have a Blackboard account that you need to use regularly. You already have an email account which you need to use regularly. Your assignments, both just getting to the assignments, submitting the assignments, and doing the work in the assignments will require an internet connection. And just to be clear, mobile devices such as tablets will not be adequate to successfully complete this course. You need this technology right away. There will be, probably through homework 6, homework 7 is more getting software and the tools that we need to continue on in the class and know how to submit assignments and do assignments. So you should know pretty quick if your computer and setup is going to be sufficient to participate in the class, and you need to figure that out quickly. One semester I had a student, we were about 2/3 of the way through the semester, and he emailed me and said, "Oh, I haven't been completing the assignments because I don't have a Windows computer." And he may have even said, "I don't even have a computer, period." And it's like, well, 12 weeks or so into the semester is really not the time to be deciding you need to figure that out. That should have been week 1 or week 2 at the worst case. So please make sure you have a computer that will allow you to complete your work in the course. As far as required textbook, it is a textbook called Network Forensics. I have the ISBN and other information listed below the picture of the cover. This semester, this is the first semester I'm teaching this class. It may be the first semester it's been offered by BCTC. I'm not 100% sure of that. So when I chose this textbook, the bookstore was able, even though it was a little past the deadline, able to get electronic copies that you can purchase through the bookstore, or you can purchase them at the URL that I've listed here directly from the publisher, Wiley. Do whatever you want. The reason that there's the bookstore option is, it's my understanding, if a student has financial aid and that financial aid includes textbooks and they want to buy the textbook, that it can't be off eBay or some other method, that it needs to be from the bookstore. So the bookstore, I am told, will have copies of this, or you can use this URL. If you want a physical copy, probably your best bet is look on eBay or something. The publisher will do print on demand, but it will take 2 or 3 weeks for you to get a copy of your book because they don't print it until you order it. So that's the required textbook. There is no optional textbook for this course. Here's some more detailed information about the course. The first is something called the no-show date. Years ago, before there were online classes, the policy was if a student does not attend one of the first 2 days of classes, you can remove them from your course as a no-show. In the modern world we live in with online classes, we have to have something called an attendance verification assignment. And for you all, that's going to be homework 0, which will be in Blackboard when the shell opens up. It is just a one-question quote test or quiz that says I have read the syllabus true false. That must be completed by the end of the day, January 21st, or you will be withdrawn from the class, marked as a no-show, and you will not be eligible to re-add that class this semester. So very important. I know students often wait to the last minute to do any assignment. I would not wait till January 20th or 21st because this is very important. I'd go ahead and knock that out pretty quickly to make sure you don't forget, or something come up like an ice storm and you're not able to get on your internet or go anywhere to get internet to complete the assignment and then end up dropped from the class. So please keep that in mind. The graded class components are going to be things that you do for your grade in the course. There are going to be homeworks, which are assignments that are created by me. You're going to have weekly quizzes that will cover the material that was covered in the previous week. And then you will have 2 exams, a midterm exam and a final exam. Both of these exams will be created by me as your instructor and will be administered, proctored via Blackboard. Related to that proctoring, we're going to use a piece of software called Respondus. And to use Respondus, you have to have a computer with high-speed internet. You have to have the Respondus lockdown browser installed and a properly working webcam and microphone. To make sure that this is all ready, working, and you understand how to use it, a couple of weeks before the midterm exam, I will give a homework assignment that has you go in and take a quote fake test that's 1 or 2 questions just to prove that your video works, your microphone works, you have the lockdown browser installed and it's working, and that you are kind of familiar with the process. Couple of years ago, they started doing midterm grades. That is the halfway point in the semester. I have to go in, and for each student, if I were to have to give you a grade that day, what grade would I give you? So those will be posted in PeopleSoft and are intended to give you some idea of how you're doing in the class. And if you're not doing as good as you hope to be doing or think you should be doing, that still gives you half a semester to, get back on track or improve. The final grade in the course, here are the percentages or the weights of the different assignments. The average of your homework assignments will make up 30% of your grade. Your average of your weekly quizzes will make up 30% of your grade. Your midterm exam will be 20% of your grade, and your final exam will be the remaining 20% of your grade. And I use a traditional grading scale. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, etc. As far as makeup work, when I give an assignment, I give a due date. I expect it to be completed by the end of the day, which for me is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you happen to be in Western Kentucky or some other place that is not in the Eastern Time Zone, then I expect it to be the equivalent of 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So for example, if you're in Owensboro, that would be 10:59 p.m. Withdrawals, probably most of you know that the first half of the semester you can just go into PeopleSoft and choose to drop yourself from a class. After that midterm date, you have to have my permission. There are some instructors who say don't even ask, I won't give permission. I'm kind of the other extreme. We may talk about it, but if that ends up being the decision you want, I will give you permission to drop my class. The very important thing is that has to be done by the last day of class, which is the Friday before finals week. And it has to be done by close of business that day. So 4 or 5 p.m., hopefully you're not waiting to the last minute to take care of something that important and risk accidentally getting an E in the class or a worse grade than you intended. As far as email, all emails you send in general should have a meaningful subject. Something that just says help is not useful to me at all. Your email should include CYS265 in the subject, along with something more specific about what your issue is. For example, CYS265, problem with homework 6. I know what class you're in, I know what assignment you're working on, I know when that assignment's due, so I can determine the urgency of responding to it, etc. Now, as far as receiving it, you should check your email at least once a day, if not more. And again, please do not use the Blackboard system. Send email. Here's a list of student resources that might be needed throughout the semester. You can look over those. Probably the most handy one, in my opinion, is the MyPath portal, but you can look over those if you're not familiar with them. I left the thing on embedded tutoring here. For 2 or 3 years, I had an embedded tutor, which is a tutor. The name comes from, normally it'd be a tutor that sits in the classroom with you, so that they know what's going on and hear my lectures and know what assignments there are, etc. But since I've taught online only since COVID, the embedded tutoring was embedded in our Blackboard shell, and then the students had contact information. My understanding is that was paid for by some grant and is no longer available. But there are general CIT tutors that are available in person and online to help you with your various needs in the class. So, there will be tutors that should be able to help you. They just will not be embedded. The next section deals with academic policies and expectations. The first is on academic integrity. So there is to be no plagiarism, no academic dishonesty, or misuse of artificial intelligence in the class. Doing that can result in an E in the course. You have to be especially careful with AI. I've actually had students in the past directly post a question in to AI, get a totally incorrect, inappropriate answer that was obviously written by AI, and then they've copy and pasted it into their homework assignment as is. Not a very smart thing to do. So make sure you don't misuse AI in class, and make sure you don't cheat is basically what this boils down to. The class section's recording policy, that probably will not apply to us at all because we won't have any class meetings that are recorded, but I just kept this in there because it's a policy they want in all the syllabi. The last thing is called the closed campus contingency policy. This is basically intended for hybrid or 100% in-person classes. And if something happened like COVID again or some other pandemic where all of a sudden we couldn't go to campus anymore, how are you going to transition your class to 100% online? Since our class is already 100% online, this would have no impact on this course. The last thing is the tentative course schedule. This is the first time I've taught this class, but I've taught enough that I think I'd probably have a pretty good job of what we'll be doing week by week. It's possible we could vary, get a little ahead, get a little behind, but I think we'll probably stay on track with this. First thing I specifically want to point out is in week 9. Unfortunately, I see a typo that I'll have to correct on the very last date on that line. But week 9 is your midterm exam, and I like to, if possible, give midterm exams Monday through Thursday. So officially, the midterm exam date is going to be, you take it sometime March 9th through March 12th. So that should be Monday through Thursday of that week. Quite often, I'll open it a few days early so that if you prefer to do big projects or exams, in this case, on the weekend, you will probably have the weekend prior to these dates that you could complete the midterm exam if you wanted. So I find most students either like to take it early on the weekend or wait till the last day. But anyway, those are the test dates. The next week is spring break week. And then we'll pick back up and finish the semester off with the rest of the material we're supposed to cover. Down at the bottom is the final exam. Finals week is May 4th through May 8th. Again, I like to do exams Monday through Thursday. So the official date of your final is May 4th through May 7th. It will be proctored. And like I just said with the midterm, I may open it up a few days early. And of course, if I do that, I will let you know. So that's a real quick pass over the syllabus. If you have any questions about the syllabus at all, please email me to get those answered.